Everyone, thank you for joining us today. I'm very pleased to have with me for today's announcement Marilyn Dennis, President of the Alberta School Boards Association, and Dr. Wilco Tymanson, President of the College of Alberta School Superintendents. Since day one of our curriculum renewal process, I have committed that everyone has a say and that we will conduct the most open and transparent curriculum review Alberta has ever seen. And I'm happy to say that that is exactly what is happening. Parents, teachers, students, education partners, like those represented here today, and everyday Albertans have all taken the time to provide feedback on a wide range of topics from a diverse range of perspectives. We have heard your thoughtful and insightful feedback to strengthen Alberta's K-6 draft curriculum. And I'm here today to announce substantive changes to our new K-6 draft curriculum based on that very feedback. First, we will slow down full implementation of the new curriculum. Until now, we have planned to implement all subjects next fall, September of 2022. But we have heard loud and clear from teachers that this was simply not possible, and due to the workload and resource constraints. Instead, we will phase in curriculum implementation, Instead, we will phase in curriculum implementation by staggering subjects, starting this fall with 3 key subjects: English, language arts and literature, mathematics, and physical education and wellness. Focusing on these subjects will benefit students by targeting foundational reading, writing, and numeracy skills that may have been affected due to the learning disruptions caused by the pandemic. I've also heard calls to delay implementation entirely. However, I believe that that would not be in the best interest of our students. We know that the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted all students in Alberta, especially our early learners in kindergarten to grade 6, which is why it's crucial to address learning challenges in the early stages of a child's development. In our election platform, we committed to teaching students essential knowledge to help them develop a strong foundation for future learning and to improve student performance and outcomes in reading, writing, and math. And that's exactly what we are doing with this targeted rollout. The physical education and wellness curriculum will now include the most important information on financial literacy previously found in the draft social studies curriculum. Students will now learn about important topics like consent and financial literacy from a young age. I also want to reassure teachers and school authorities that we are continuing the important work of developing corresponding resources, including some optional lesson plans and materials to support our teachers through implementation. We will also be appointing an advisory committee on implementation to provide advice to government on the initial 3 subjects for the 22-23 school year, while also considering longer-term implementation timelines and sequencing of other subjects. I will share more information in the new year once the advisory group has been established. We are also listening to Albertans on the content of the draft curriculum. Most of the feedback we've received from Albertans so far relates to the social studies curriculum. We have heard that some Albertans feel the draft content has students learning too much, too soon, and too quickly. That is why we are releasing a new K-6 social studies design blueprint. Now, to be clear, the draft blueprint is not curriculum. It is a blueprint, not curriculum. The draft blueprint maps out our revised plan for the K-6 social studies based on the thoughtful, detailed feedback that we have received to date. It provides a snapshot of the key themes, the focus of study, and content at a glance. And it will help us view draft K-6 social studies content through the lens of developmental and age appropriateness. It also addresses concerns that have been raised regarding diversity, inclusivity, and biased language. The draft blueprint outlines how certain content would be pushed out to later grades as needed to make sure our students are learning concepts when they are ready and sometimes moving that content beyond the K-6 curriculum to ensure it is developmentally age-appropriate. While the draft blueprint has incorporated these changes, we still believe in a content-rich curriculum. Students will continue to learn about history, geography, economics, government and political systems, and civics and citizenship through K-6, including an emphasis on First Nations, Métis and Inuit histories and perspectives, and Francophone perspectives, as well as different cultures and religions. I encourage Albertans to explore the draft design blueprint on alberta.ca/curriculum. These initial changes and the feedback we hear on them will help us move forward with a revised draft social studies curriculum on which to further engage with Albertans and seek their feedback. The third update I'm providing today is that in addition to the new draft social studies curriculum blueprint, we will be making initial content changes to 4 subjects. I would like to thank the over 65,000 Albertans across the province who provided feedback on this draft. I would also like to thank all the education partners and community organizations who submitted feedback to our department. This feedback led us to make this round of changes in these 4 subjects. Changes to English language arts and literature will improve content clarity to help students build foundational literacy skills and higher level thinking like creativity and critical thinking. Changes to music within the fine arts curriculum will provide clarity on foundational concepts to help students move from theory to performance arts skills. And changes to physical education and wellness will revise learning outcomes to emphasize nutrition and positive body image, and help students appreciate the uniqueness of each individual's growth experience. And as mentioned, we will be moving financial literacy from social studies to physical education and wellness. This will help students gain financial confidence, solve problems, and prepare for personal and professional success. Parents have made it clear that they want their children learning financial literacy in the classroom as soon as possible, and we are delivering. As a result, we've updated content to ensure students understand that climate change. We've also received a considerable amount of feedback on the draft science curriculum, and as a result, we've updated content to ensure students understand that climate change can be caused by both human and natural causes, as well as understanding the potential clean energy production has, what the potential for clean energy, what they have to do in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. We've also made changes to help students develop an appreciation for dinosaurs and understand their significance in Alberta's history. This is all what we've heard from Albertans. And we will also continue to engage with all Albertans. This includes our education partners, First Nations, Métis and Inuit partners, and Franco-Albertans. Engagement opportunities will be available on alberta.ca/curriculum. That's why it is so very important that Albertans look at this round of changes and please continue to provide us your feedback. We expect that all other subjects, including draft French language curriculum and mathematics curriculum, will be updated and released as revised drafts in the spring. And recognizing that the adjustments being made on the draft K-6 curriculum will impact later grades, we will sequence work on drafting curriculum for grades 7 to 10 accordingly and will not pilot these grades next school year. It is no secret that the COVID pandemic has been challenging for Albertans, especially those involved in our education system. Despite these challenges, parents, students, teachers, and support staff have been incredibly resilient, and I truly appreciate all of their efforts. It's critical now more than ever that we do what we can do to ensure students and teachers are supported. My goal as Education Minister has always been to put the best curriculum possible in front of our students, and this is done by working together. The steps we are taking now will ensure our students are learning from an updated curriculum that prepares them for the future, and we are committed to taking the time to get it right. I look forward to working together to build a future where all students have the knowledge and skills they need to succeed. And I will now turn the podium over to Marilyn Dennis, President of the Alberta School Boards Association, and the trustee with Calgary Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And good afternoon, everyone. The Alberta School Boards Association has been advocating for content revisions and a delay and phased approach to K-6 curriculum implementation. Our association and many of our member boards individually have been asking for a complete delay. While this announcement today isn't a complete delay, we do acknowledge that this is a step in the right direction. We are pleased to see that input from various stakeholders, including ASBA and individual boards, has begun to inform changes announced by the Minister today, in particular as it relates to the redesign and review of the draft social studies curriculum. There is still work to be done, and we are encouraged by the Minister's assurances to us that ASBA will be part of the next draft revisions and implementation strategies. The Minister has indicated that government will continue to listen and make revisions that are reflective of the views of school boards and the communities that we represent. Through our engagement process, ASBA has submitted an interim report that represents the collective voices of our members, administration, parents, and school communities. We look forward to submitting our final report in January that will help to inform the next phase of revisions. We are committed to participating in a process that will result in a first-class curriculum, one that we can all be proud of, and one that will uphold Alberta as a respected educational leader in Canada and worldwide. And as such, we look forward to contributing to the work of the Minister's Curriculum Implementation Advisory Council. Through ASBA's vision of inspiring exceptional public, separate, and francophone school board governance, the Alberta School Boards Association is committed to influencing and driving continued improvements in the design and implementation of the draft K-6 curriculum. Thank you. And at this time, I would like to welcome President Wilco Tymonson from CAS.
Thank you, Minister LaGrange and Marilyn, Dennis from the Alberta School Board Association. I'm pleased to be here on behalf of the College of Alberta School Superintendents. The Government of Alberta and school divisions have a time-honoured relationship in working through draft curriculum proposals to get to a final draft. The approach historically focuses on implementing one core program at a time. With 12 grades, 6 core programs, and a multitude of complementary subjects, one can quickly see that by the time the last subject is implemented, the first may be 40 years old and out of date. To put this in perspective, we still have curriculum being taught to students from 1984. That's the same year that The Karate Kid came out. And I believe Ralph Macchio just turned 60 this year. The Board of Directors of the Alberta College the Board of Directors for the College of Alberta School Superintendents sees the importance of updating curriculum and has appreciated the opportunity for members to participate in the engagement process on the draft curriculum. Since the release of the draft curriculum, our members have shared our concerns, and we have provided solution-focused recommendations to the government. We are pleased to see the response to feedback such as the change in the number of subjects being implemented next year, the changes that address age appropriateness, and the reduction in content. We are pleased the Ministry is open to further curriculum refinement, we look forward to continuing to work with the government on the extended implementation process and will provide our expertise as requested on the Implementation Advisory Panel. One can't underestimate the work required for teachers to prepare for a new curriculum. We know that our members and teachers were concerned about the volume of courses that were being proposed for implementation. Today's announcement will reduce that scope and help teachers as they prepare to implement a new curriculum for September 2022. This makes sense given that the focus of addressing student learning and staff well-being due to pandemic-related challenges. I think we're all aware that well-being is top of mind during the pandemic, and we certainly need to continue to support our youth and our teachers as they prepare to implement a new curriculum for student success. On behalf of the College of Alberta School Superintendents, we look forward to continuing to work with the partnership of the Ministry and all of our education stakeholders as we move forward into a new curriculum. Stay healthy and safe, everyone, and thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you. We are now going to move over to the Q&A portion of today's announcement. I'll ask that you keep your questions to one question and one follow-up. If you are here today in person, please line up at the microphone. And we're going to start on the phones today. Operator, can you please put through the first caller?
Thank you. Brianna Karsten-Smith, Global News.
Good morning. My question is for the Minister. Minister, when it comes to the changes to the science curriculum, specifically the introduction of climate change, the wording is quite couched in it. I'm wondering, we heard that several organizations were consulted, but I'd like some more information on how many actual scientists and climate change researchers were consulted.
Well, thank you for the question. And when we looked at climate change within the context of the K-6 curriculum, I know that there was content before, but we heard from the feedback that we received from numerous sources, not just teachers and educators and others within our engagement process, parents, et cetera. We've heard from a large number of diverse groups, and I don't have that detailed feedback in front of me, but I can have someone follow up with you on that particular piece. But we heard that more was wanting to be required in our science program. So certainly in this round of changes, we've made some additions, but knowing that science is not going to be implemented in September of 2022, there's lots of opportunity for continued feedback and engagement with the public at large and those with expertise in this area that want to engage with us.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you. In terms of the timeline for the social studies K-6, I know it's we're looking at spring 2020 for the draft to come out, but when could we actually see the implementation of this?
Well, because we are going to implement the subjects English language arts, mathematics, and phys ed and wellness in September of 2022, we have an opportunity to work with the implementation advisory group to actually look at sequencing. We are going to obviously engage on the blueprint, which for those in the education world would know it as the scope and sequence for social studies. Once we feel that we've got a solid scope and sequence blueprint to move forward on, we will certainly then be looking to have a draft of the social studies K-6 for more engagement. So I don't want to presuppose when that could be, but it won't be in September of 2022.
Operator, can you please put through the next caller?
Thank you. Francois Joly, Radio Canada.
Oh, hi. Thank you for taking my questions. I wanted to know, you mentioned this additional delay for some of the subjects was caused by the pandemic. What made you change your mind on that? Because why is that now something that's causing a delay when it was not a year ago when we were well into the first wave of the pandemic?
Well, obviously, when we were into the first wave of the pandemic, we did not know what we were facing, and since then, we certainly have seen numerous waves follow, and we've been able to adjust accordingly to those waves. When I look at the fact that early in the spring, we really focused our energy on literacy and numeracy, learning loss, and then we further engaged with the education community and heard that we required more supports in that area. So I allocated $45 million to address learning loss in grades 1 to 3. Focusing on these 3 subjects will further support the work that we've been doing in this area. So that is the premise behind this, but also knowing that there has been a significant strain on the system as a whole. And so we really want implementation to be successful. And what we're hearing for it to be successful is that we have to slow the pace down.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I have a question about the advisory committee. Is there going to be any teachers on this? We tried to get an answer at the tech briefing, and we heard about individual organizations, but not much details about who would be on it. Is there going to be any actual teachers, or is it just going to be school boards and school board association, for instance?
Well, there will be education leaders, though there will be, the Alberta School Boards Association, CAS represented on there as well. And absolutely, I believe that there will be teachers represented, but we have not fully developed the composition of that group. That will be developed here in early January. And I'll look forward to sharing that because, as you well know, this has been the most open and transparent process for curriculum development that has ever occurred in Alberta history. So I will be very open and transparent with who will be on that committee.
Operator, can you please put through the next caller?
Janet French, CBC.
Hi there. Thanks for taking my question. This is for the minister. Some of the concerns with this curriculum are not limited to social studies, but the underlying approach. Will all subjects still be approached from a perennialist philosophy that there's this common foundational set of knowledge that all children should memorize? And if so, how meaningful can any of these proposed changes really be?
Well, there are many thoughts on curriculum, and we made a commitment to Alberta parents that we would have a strong foundational knowledge presented to our children, that we would have rigor in the curriculum, and we make no apologies for that. We're going to continue with that focus of strong foundational skills and knowledge that every student should have to make them successful. But we are hearing and listening to all of the engagement and feedback that we're getting and incorporating that amongst all the subjects, but particularly, as you can see in the social studies, we have gone back to designing a new K-6 social studies blueprint or scope and sequence for those that are in the education system.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I see in that scope and sequence that you mentioned that residential schools are still not proposed to be addressed until grade 4 in that framework. And this is still counter to the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action, in which Indigenous people are asking for this to be introduced as soon as kindergarten. So why are you not listening to those voices from Indigenous communities who are asking for residential schools to be addressed right off the top?
Well, we have actually put $1 million of grants out to all our education partners with a heavy focus on First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. They've taken us up on that offer to provide us that specific detail, and we look forward to making further revisions. Currently, in the K-12 curriculum, residential schools is taught in grade 10. Right now, in the last draft, the first draft that came out last March, and I'll remind you, it was last March when we brought forward the first draft, the residential schools was taught in grade 5. We did hear from the education partners, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, that through the calls to action, that it needed to shift to grade 4. But that doesn't negate the fact that there will be content learning on First Nations, Métis, and Inuit right from kindergarten onwards. And we're very committed to that. Should further revisions be made, because as I said, we're going to be engaging on this new draft blueprint for the upcoming spring, that we can make further adjustments. But at this point in time, we've shifted it from grade 5 to grade 4.
Okay, seeing as there are no questions from the room here in person, that concludes today's press conference. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.